Nancy,
Hola.
hi. Happy to meet you. I'm Nick. Hi.
Yes, Senor Cage. So, what fascinated you about bringing this version of Dracula to life?
Well, Dracula is a character that's been done well many times and has been done not very well far more times. And I thought there was room to bring something fresh to the icon that is Dracula. I think that Chris McKay really designed a cinema experience that is a mashup between genres. And when you can get that mix of horror and comedy right, like a bullseye, it's just so much fun to be in the audience. I had that experience with a movie when I was a teenager called American Werewolf in London, and I've been trying to find a movie that would embrace that experience ever since. And I think Chris brought it. It also gave me a chance to play a Dracula that could be, and this was the challenge, simultaneously creepy and funny within the line deliveries.
So, right now, you mentioned a little bit about the Hollywood cinemas. One of my highlights was bringing that into the film. Which one were you excited to see? One of those black and white
Well,
scenes.
the classic line from Lugosi is "I don't drink wine," and that line it was so much fun to mirror that for this movie. But then that was really only a starting point. From then, Dracula transforms into what I'm trying to bring as a pop art kind of Dracula that's both amusing and menacing.
When you were preparing for this, did you take the time to kind of look back at the past Draculas? And you probably did. So you said there were some good, maybe it's some others not so good, but one that you admired
Sure.
its
Yeah,
work.
they all had different contributions. you know, Again, with this Dracula, I only had a certain amount of time. I'm very much in support of Nick Holt's Renfield. So I wanted it to be a pop art Dracula that would linger and stay with you. I didn't really have the time like Gary Oldman did in Francis Coppola's Dracula to look at why he is the way he is. But that Dracula had a lot of emotional poignance. Langella's Dracula had a great deal of charm and a kind of a romance to the portrayal. My personal favorite Dracula is Christopher Lee from the Hammer horror films. I like the way he looked in the 60s hairdo. Plus, I think, he looked a lot like my father, who was the biggest influence for my Dracula. But also, Lee had that ferociousness on the attack. So, like my Dracula, I wanted to have that top predator animality whenever he was no longer the gentleman, the Victorian or Gothic gentleman, but on the attack, like a cobra or like a big cat. And then Bela Lugosi really originated the Dracula experience. It's interesting to note that Lugosi's performance never had fangs. There are no fangs, it's just his own teeth, which is interesting.
What was your reaction when you first saw yourself as Dracula?
I was like, okay, this is good. This is going to do a lot of the work because I don't have to act. I believe this character. I looked at the makeup that was so beautifully designed with Christian Tinsley and Chris McKay. We all wanted this kind of Christopher Lee appearance. But for me, just having all the precise makeup design applied externally helped me find the character's emotions internally. So it became like no acting, please. I can't stress enough how enormously helpful and what a contribution the makeup was to this performance.
It's rumored that you're a time traveler from 1870. So, what's a time that you would like to travel back to?
Oh, I'm a big admirer of the 50s. I think to be able to go and you know, see Brando, or maybe meet James Dean or see Elvis. I mean, I like the verve and the spirit of the 50s in the US. I like swing dancing. I think I would have enjoyed that. I like the movies that came out of the 50s, that sort of actors explosion of the Stella Adler and the sense memory and all that. And yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. I enjoyed one of your last hits, but not to mention Pig.
Oh, that's my
Loved it.
favorite movie. I love Pig.
I loved
Thank
it.
you.
I
Thank
loved
you for
your
that.
I loved your acting in that film, and
Thank
the
you.
rest, of course.
Thank you so much. Yeah, well, I agree with you about Pig. I love that movie. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, and congratulations.